Two crooked cops thought they could silence a black woman by framing her with fake charges. But in court, she revealed something no one saw coming. She was actually an undercover state inspector, and she exposed years of their lies and abuse. What happened after that would shock even the toughest hearts. But let's go back to the beginning. Dawn Matthews, a confident and self-assured black woman in her mid-30s, walked into Ridgewood Market under the bright midday sun. She wore a sharp black pantsuit and carried a sleek leather briefcase, giving off a strong, professional vibe. Yet her warm smile and friendly nods to the store clerk and customers showed her kind and approachable nature. She looked like just another shopper out running errands. But Dawn wasn't ordinary. She was a state inspector working undercover to investigate deep corruption in the local police department. Outside, officers Greg Harris and Tom Becker, two well-known names in the mostly white, quiet suburb, leaned against their police cruiser parked near the store. Harris, in his mid-40s with a smug look always on his face, scanned the lot behind his sunglasses. Becker, younger and more muscular, shifted around, clearly impatient. His rough attitude was only barely hidden by his uniform. These two were notorious for picking on minorities under the excuse of routine checks, and their unchecked power had built up a cloud of fear and anger in the community. Lately, more eyes were on them as complaints rolled in, which only made them more aggressive. When Dawn walked out of the store carrying paper bags, she instantly noticed them staring her down. Their look wasn't new to her. It was a warning she had seen many times before. Years of dealing with prejudice had taught her to stand strong. Her heart pounded, but she kept calm, walking to her car with her head held high. "Ma'am," Harris said as he stepped forward, a smug grin creeping across his face. "Mind explaining why your license plate matches the one from a robbery report?" Dawn stopped and looked him straight in the eye. "That's not possible," she said calmly. "My car is registered under my name and hasn't left the garage until today." Becker sneered, slowly circling her like a predator. "Then you can explain that at the station." Without saying more, they slapped handcuffs on her. People nearby watched in stunned silence as Dawn, quiet but steady, was led to the cruiser. She knew this was just the beginning. The real battle hadn't even started. In a dimly lit interrogation room, the air felt thick with tension. Officers Harris and Becker stood over Dawn, who sat at a metal table under the harsh light. Her hands were calmly folded, her eyes sharp and alert. Harris leaned in, trying to sound in control. "Let's go over it again, Miss Matthews. Where were you the night of the robbery?" Dawn raised an eyebrow and replied evenly, "At home." "I already told you." The questioning grew harsher. Becker paced the room, throwing out fake witness stories and made-up evidence about her car. "Your friends aren't as loyal as you think," he sneered. "They're ready to spill everything. Why don't you make it easy on yourself?" Dawn's heart raced, but she didn't let it show. Her training as a state inspector had prepared her for moments like this. She stayed quiet, mentally noting each lie and every mistake they made. Then Harris pulled out a wallet from an evidence bag and tossed it onto the table. "Recognize this?" he asked mockingly. "Funny how it ended up in your bag." Swallowing her anger, Dawn locked eyes with him. "I don't have to say anything until my lawyer is here." Her request, like many others, was ignored. The hours dragged on, with the officers trying every intimidation trick they knew. But Dawn never broke. Her silence was her resistance. Inside, her mind was racing, recording every rule they broke, evidence she could use later. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the station, rookie officer Elena Cruz came across Dawn's file. Something didn't sit right. The sloppy paperwork, the rushed processing, and Dawn's calm demeanor stood out. Cruz started digging and found a trail of altered reports and repeated patterns of racial targeting by Harris and Becker. Her stomach turned. She knew what she found couldn't stay hidden anymore. The courthouse was buzzing with tension. The next morning, Dawn Matthews walked through a sea of people, her wrists bound in cold metal handcuffs. Cameras flashed non-stop, catching every step as reporters shouted over each other trying to get a statement. News headlines had already spread. Local woman arrested in robbery case. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as onlookers speculated about what would happen. All eyes shifted between Dawn and the smug figures of officers Harris and Becker, who sat confidently at the prosecution's table. But despite being in cuffs, Dawn looked composed. Her calm, professional appearance suggested a quiet strength that made the officers' confidence seem too early. When the judge called the court to order, the prosecution wasted no time laying out their version of the events. Harris and Becker exchanged grins, sure that their fake evidence would be enough to win. Then something unexpected happened. Dawn stood. Her voice was steady but strong. "Your Honor," she said, "I would like to introduce myself, not as the accused, but as Dawn Matthews, senior investigator with the State Department of Justice." The courtroom froze. Total silence fell. The judge, surprised but intrigued, nodded for her to go on. The officers' grins vanished. Panic crept across their faces. Dawn calmly shared her credentials and explained that she had been working undercover on an active investigation into police corruption. She revealed how she had collected strong proof of racial profiling and false charges, pointing directly at Harris and Becker. Her words cut through the courtroom like a blade, tearing apart the lies their case was built on. But the biggest blow came when rookie officer Elena Cruz was called to the stand. Sitting quietly in the crowd, Cruz had struggled with fear. But Dawn's brave truth-telling gave her the strength she needed. Taking the witness stand, she described everything she had uncovered: fake reports, unjust arrests, and repeated abuse. Her testimony confirmed everything Dawn said and completely destroyed the prosecution's case. The courtroom was electric with energy. What once seemed like a slim chance for justice was now unstoppable. The judge slammed his gavel down, the sound echoing sharply. His face was red with anger as he turned to the officers. "Officers Harris and Becker," he said firmly, "you are hereby placed into custody pending a full investigation into your actions." Gasps rippled through the room as the bailiffs approached. The officers, once full of confidence, now looked shocked as the handcuffs locked around their wrists. The irony was clear. The men who had abused their authority were now feeling the same shame they had forced on others. Spectators murmured as they watched the disgraced officers being led away, their heads bowed. Meanwhile, Dawn Matthews stood tall. She turned to face the room, her voice calm but full of strength. "This case," she began, her eyes moving across the crowd, "is not just about me. It's about a system that lets people like these officers act without being held accountable. They used power without limits and targeted those who were vulnerable. Real change begins with accountability." Her words hung in the air, hitting everyone in the room. For many, her courage was deeply moving. In the crowd, Officer Elena Cruz felt a strong sense of purpose. Dawn's fight against corruption had lit a fire in her to protect justice and integrity within law enforcement. In the weeks that followed, charges were filed against Harris and Becker, including falsifying evidence and abusing their power. Both were fired from the force, their fall serving as a warning to others. Dawn's case triggered a wider investigation into the police department, uncovering years of hidden discrimination and leading to major reforms. New policies were introduced for transparency, and training was updated to address unconscious bias. The community, once divided and fearful, came together around Dawn. Her bravery became a powerful symbol, a reminder that even when power seems too big to fight, one voice can make a difference. For Dawn, this wasn't just a personal win. It was the beginning of tearing down a broken system,